Okay.
So, hi Afsha, welcome to Design Away. It's a
Thank you.
platform that aims to promote design thinking and innovation among young minds. So, Afsha has been heading a design and product development team at an international jewelry company for 24 years now, and she has studied design at the National Institute of Fashion Technology in Delhi. So, creativity comes not only from her professional and formal education, it also comes from her upbringing. So, yeah, let's move on to the questions if that's okay.
Yes, please.
So, what is design thinking, and is there a set way to learn design thinking?
So, design thinking is a process of creative problem solving in a user centric way. It helps us understand the users, challenge our own assumptions, challenge preset notions, redefine the problems, and create innovative solutions. Then we prototype and test. So, in simple words, it has 5 stages. First stage is you empathize. Empathize as in you observe the user in their environment, their behavior. You put yourself in their shoes and see really what are the things that are the needs or the problems for this user. Second is you define the right problem. What is the define it in a user centric way. Then you ideate, which is the creative process of brainstorming. Then you prototype, where your skill, your attention to detail, your craftsmanship comes in. You prototype in lots of prototypes, quick testing, and that is after which you scale up. So that's in simple words what design thinking is. It has today become a buzzword since many large companies have spoken out about the importance of design thinking in their business. Apple is everyone knows that Apple is the general example quoted for this. But there's Toyota, there's IDEO, Nike, Airbnb, Uber. So many such companies are taking design thinking very seriously now. So now there are many colleges that offer courses in design thinking, like starting from MIT, Harvard, Stanford. We have IIT Bombay, which has a very good course. Then we have NID, NIFT, and there are all levels of institutes. And there are these smaller workshops being given and internships being given by design labs, design teams as well, which would be a good way to uh, start your understanding of the subject.
Of course. So, of course, a lot of institutions are catching on to this phenomenon that is design thinking. So, how do you think it has shaped your field, which is the product development field?
So here I would like to say that design and design thinking are slightly different. Although design is the prime field in which design thinking can be applied, its application is superb there. But design thinking is a larger process of solving problems which are complicated, and the process of design thinking is applicable to any field. It can be applied to your day to day life, to politics, to city planning, space planning, anything. In product development, it's very crucial to apply design thinking. The success of a product, I believe, depends on how closely the design thinking principles are applied while designing the product.
Right.
Say it could be knowingly or unknowingly. I'll give you an example. An umbrella, it was designed 4000 years back, when design thinking was not really a systematic study or a set process, but the principles were applied while designing the umbrella. The user experience was studied so well that till today, in even after 4000 years, no other design has come closer to solving the problem of rain for an individual on the move like an umbrella has.
Right.
So the principles are what matters, and how much longer the design will stay. Sometimes when you don't apply the principles of design thinking, or if you define the problem wrongly, that's where we can go wrong. You have so many examples of these products that fail. Say 3D TVs or the slimmest watch. After a huge launch and a lot of money spent, the companies realize that there's simply no need for this product. One of our own disasters, for example, we were trying to make an engagement ring where the head could be changeable, where the center could be taken out and replaced with another one. However, we realized after all the R&D we did that engagement rings are so dear to the lady, like to every consumer. Her To every lady, the engagement ring is such a dear product that, and normally the most expensive piece of jewelry she owns. The idea of taking out the center diamond and putting and keeping it lying around in the house where it could get lost, it was completely abhorrent to the consumer. So I believe design thinking principles are most crucial in product design, And if we miss a step or if we do it wrongly, the repercussions could be very large.
That makes sense. So, like the example that you brought up, so clearly jewelry design has a balance of both ergonomics and efficiency, like any product design does, and it's also about beauty and expression both. So, how do you find like the perfect balance of these two compulsions?
Okay, good question. So, see, design is not art. It is not something to you do for yourself. It's something that you do for others, right? And it can never work in isolation. It's always cross functional because there are so many stakeholders involved. Design thinking means solving the right problem. Excuse me. And there are many needs or problems to solve, the prime being the needs of the end user. The first step, say, like you said, it's about jewelry, is about all about beauty and self expression. The first step, I would suggest, would be to not assume that precious jewelry is about beauty and expression. It could mean different things to different people. I've learned so far that it's a lot about the emotional aspect of gifting, of love, family, aesthetic appeal, conversational value, brand, your own sense of self worth. Like, I am precious because someone cares enough about me to gift me this. This could be the value of this jewel to the end consumer. So, start with observing and empathizing with the end user. Is this collection required for Valentine's Day? If it's Valentine's Day, would the consumer be a young, under 20 girl, or would she be a newly married woman? Who is the person gifting it to her on Valentine's Day? Then you can put yourself in their shoes and empathize and understand, okay, what would she like or what would he like, the person who's gifting. Now we as a company are in the segment of mass production of jewelry. Here there are many other stakeholders, like there's the retailer, there's the wholesaler, there's manufacturing, raw material, workmen, right? The more we interact with each of these stakeholders and the more we empathize with them, the better we find out their needs. For example, the retailer's need could be to draw more customers to the store, or it could be to product that sells for years, so it gives them good sturdy business, or it could be a trendy collection that brings newer customers, younger consumers to the store, or it could be a collection that looks good on social media. So we need to understand the needs of the retailer as well. Same way manufacturing, like you rightly said, manufacturing could have the needs of efficiency, scale. Sourcing could have needs of profitability. Please use the raw material that we can profitably procure. The workman might have a need of, okay, something that is falling in their skill set, right?
Right.
So as a design team, our job is to empathize and understand everybody's needs and define what needs are most important. That makes our product brief or the box in which we need to work in. And if it's not a win-win for everybody, every stakeholder, it's not going to work. So we try as a team to empathize with everyone and then try and get product that's a win-win for everyone.
That makes sense.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. In fact, I'd like to follow up by asking, so you've talked about how important it is to figure out these needs, but how do you kind of get to the needs, for example, of the target audience of the customer, for example, as a large scale jewelry manufacturing company?
Right. So that's one of our biggest challenges and opportunities. See, it's very important to know your end consumer, what she looks like or he looks like, what they wear, what TV shows they watch, what movies, what ads do they look at every day, what celebrities they follow. So when we travel, we always make it a point to see, to try and get as much exposure to the consumer, the culture as we can. Our unique challenge is that centrally located in India, we are catering to so many different countries. We can't always physically go there and observe the consumer so minutely. So we mainly focus on the retailers being our end consumer and what needs we can fulfill for them, because they have an access to the end consumer and they know the end consumer really well. I'm not saying that we don't need to, we also need to, but in case you don't have direct access to the end consumer, you have social media to study them, you have the music, the movies, the culture that you can imbibe from books, and you focus on the retailers problems to solve. That's what we do. That's been our formula.
So you do create like a picture of the sort of, whether it's the retailer, and then eventually the retailer will create sort of a picture of the customer in their minds, sort of a portfolio. of them and of a persona of them, and then kind of work towards selling the products. So
Yes. So the retailer normally tells us, okay, this is the price point, this is some sort of the consumer profile, and then we try and create a picture of what kind of clothes that lady wears, what kind of house, what are the furniture trends, what kind of movies she's interested in, and then we sort of start designing from there. But
right.
for every collection, we don't really make a separate consumer mood board.
Okay. And so in the field of jewelry, where AI and 3D printing and other contemporary methods are making leaps and bounds, is there a future for jewelry designers, and how important will they be in the long run?
So everybody worries about whose job will go or whose job will be taken over by computers in future. What careers will be there? What careers won't be there? I personally believe that there's a better future for creative people across streams, not just jewelry. I mean anywhere, because creativity and insights are what consumer computers have not been able to replace as of now. See, the key principles of design or design thinking are empathy, observation, and defining the right problem. They are still coming from a human brain. I feel AI, 3D printing, robotics, everything is going to help us. Why? Because AI will get us better and better data, which will help us come up with better solutions that are fact based and not assumption based. Right now, there are many times we feel there's a lack of data to us as designers, because especially in mass production houses where we are not really directly in touch with the consumer. Yes, more data would help us make better solutions for the end consumer. 3D printing has already revolutionized the jewelry industry. In the olden days, one piece would be manually made and it would take months. So jewelry was only for the rich. Then 3D printing, casting, wax molding, all of that came in, and the process became scalable and also very short. So the jewelry became affordable for masses. Now when I joined the industry, it took 2 months to make a model. Now it takes one day with CAD.
Oh,
So we can test faster, prototype faster, test more ideas, and go take only the ones which are working well, take them forward. So it's been such a boon for designers and product developers on the whole. So I'm really excited about all the other new technologies and how they're going to help me design better. I
right.
think it's a bright future.
I'd agree with you. And so, of course, jewelry has also moved, as you said, from the artisan smith to the realms of chemistry and physics and all of that. And jewelry has actually been democratized across like all sections of the market. So, does this actually affect the value of these individual designs, like as compared to before?
Yes. So I think somewhere in the 1980s to early 1990s was when the mass production of jewelry started in India. When from the handmade artisan type of working, we went to factories with casting and model making and mold cutting. So it has helped take jewelry to everyone. Make jewelry, which was always a very niche, unattainable article. It has helped us take it to everyone. Another thing it did well was our designers and artisans got exposed to so many new techniques and products from different countries, different technologies, cultures, materials. All of that added to our capabilities. For example, like I said, when we got CAD, we trained most of our hand model makers to CAD. And that not only helped them get a new skill, they could do their work faster, but also better lifestyles and growth. It did take us away from the niche, one piece, handcrafted type of jewelry that India was always known for, but it opened the gates for so much more that we were capable of doing. Today, Indian manufactured jewelry is sold almost all over the world, from mass retailers to, online to niche brands to even auction houses like Sotheby's. So we have, as an industry, made a much larger impact, and we have created so many jobs, trained new talent, and got a lot of export dollars for the country, right? So I believe the it has been all over so far for the good. Today the situation is that one needs to be mindful of the balance between the value of fine jewelry and the profitability of scale. See, profitability of scale says you make more, sell more, make more, sell more. But the whole idea of jewelry is it is associated with self-worth. If everybody is wearing it, that I'm not, then I'm not special, right? So right now we are at a place where the product is flooding the market. at dirt cheap pricing, and a feeling of use and throw is coming in some consumer segments. And much of it is, I to me personally, it is very wasteful. It's not really, I feel, good for the industry or good for the earth either. I feel this is a unique problem, and we are at a stage where we can change things. So, we need to apply design thinking principles as an industry, so we can balance profitability and growth, and yet retain the real value that the jewelry holds for the consumer.
Of course.
I mean, I don't really have the solution, but I understand that this, to me personally, is a problem that I feel is affecting the industry.
That makes sense. And so you talked about a problem earlier when you talked about the engagement rings and the replaceable diamonds. But is there any example of a great design principle that you have used that has kind of boosted your sales or something like that?
Yes, absolutely. So lately what we've started doing, so there has always been a problem of in earrings, there's always been a problem of, say, earrings getting lost, because earrings are something you wear for years, years as in a long time, and you take it out, put it back in, take it out, put it back in. So one of the challenges the customer threw at us was, how can you design a better earring? So we did a whole case study, we did engineering, we came out with some 8 9 different factors that define or that can influence how does one make an earring more comfortable for the user, but yet long lasting. Finally, we tweaked a lot of things in our earring mechanisms and ended up with an earring that is really much safer and much more secure for the user to wear, with, of course, better sales and better reviews. So that could be a great example of where we really did apply. Oh, before the launch, we also did accelerated testing, where we made few of our we called a few people and a few women, and we made them wear the earring, take out the earring, wear the earring, take out the earring, maybe 3 400 times. So that helped us understand which of our own prototypes was the best, and that's when, then after that, the implementation and the results. So that was a good example, I would say.
It's amazing. So clearly, design thinking is about thinking, making, breaking, and then repeating the entire process again and again. So, how do you think our viewers can integrate design thinking into their daily lives?
Yes, absolutely. I feel design thinking is a life tool. It at its core is observation and empathizing and challenging preconceived notions. Then defining the right problem in a user-centric way, trying out many ideas and testing the ones most suitable till you come to the best one that works. So the principle itself can be applied to almost anything. You can use it to design your life, design a career that you would enjoy, decide where you should live. I personally have done all three, and maybe right now I have a problem of, how do I solve the problem of my kids spending too much time on the screen. So I could apply design thinking principles to that. Say, first step would be to observe my kids through their day to day routine and empathize with them, put myself in their shoes and understand really why do they go to the screen so much,
Right.
find insights on why they are drawn to the screen, then define the problem in a way where I empathize with them, instead of, say, saying, how can I decrease the screen time for my kids? Maybe I need to relook at it and say, how can I add more fulfilling, enjoyable off screen activities to my kids day? And then we try ideas, and then I test them, and then so on. Of course, it's easier said than done, but I feel this is how applying design thinking principles in your day-to-day problems could go.
Right. And is
Does
there
that
any
answer your question, Rishi? Or
answers the question well? Amazing example as well. So, is there any advice for like youngsters like myself specifically who are looking to form a career, as you said, in design thinking?
uh, I would say absolutely go for it. Absolutely. And I think it's a, like I said, it's not something that's only applicable to the field of product design or service design or space design. It's a skill that will help you in any career you choose. It's a life tool that you can use to make your life better and solve problems in your life on a day to day basis. I was recently reading a report from World Economic Forum on future of jobs, and they said, what are the 10 critical skills that employers are going to look for in the 2020s. So there's first is complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, people management, coordinating with others, emotional intelligence, judgment and decision making, service orientation, negotiation, and cognitive flexibility. Now, guess what? Design thinking helps you hone all of these skills. So, and plus, it's so much fun. So, I would say don't take my word for it. Maybe try a small workshop, apply the principles in your life, and then nobody will have to convince you. Just go with your own experience.
That's awesome. Right. So I think that's it for our questions. And thank you so much for your time and shedding light on this essential field. And I'm sure all our viewers will benefit greatly from your insights. Thank
My
you.
pleasure has been all mine, and I think you're doing a great job and wish you all the best.
Thank you.